YouTube. And I just need to make sure all the relevant channel points are active. Good. Nice. Then I need to make sure I don't hear myself that clearly. Good. Hello, hello, hello. Miraculously, I'm not as sick as yesterday, but I'm still sick. So we're still going to be reading. How was your day, Gemini? And for the first time in a while, I'm finally gonna start wearing my glasses when I'm doing all this streaming stuff. Yesterday when I was doing the co-working, I realized that everything was easier because I was wearing my glasses. I wasn't as tired, and that's why I somehow managed to go for so long. Hello, Nolo Saint. Kind of chill for the most part. My voice didn't crack just then. Okay, I'm lost. We did chapter 1 and chapter 2 last time. So we're gonna do 3 and 4 and 5. That's the goal. How are you, Nola Saint? But yes, I'm glad to hear you're not as sick. I guess fisticuffs against at work. Yes, we've beat it up with our fists. Okay, nice. I was dying at work this morning though. It was actually really bad this morning. I didn't want to be there. But it gradually got better over time. I think my voice just went again. And I will be taking little tiny sips of water throughout. I won't rush through the reading as like I did previously. I feel like I'm always rushing in some way. But yeah, this will be interesting. I actually don't know what's going on so far for the book, so I am curious because we did just start it. I only came in to say hi about my stay and listen to you read while I sleep. Okay, have a good sleep. Okay, so we're on chapter 3 of At the Mountains of Madness. None of us, I imagine, slept very heavily or continuously that morning. Both the excitement of Lake's discovery and the mounting fury of the wind were against such a thing. So savage was the blast, even where we were, that we could not help wondering how much worse it was at Lake's camp, directly under the vast unknown peaks that bred and divided it. That we could not help wondering how much worse it was at Lake's camp, directly under the vast unknown peaks that bred and divided. Tai was awake at 10 o'clock and tried to get Lake on the wireless but some electrical condition on the disturbed air to the westward seemed to prevent communication. We did, however, get the Arkham, and Douglas told me he had likewise been vainly trying to reach Lake. He had not known about the wind, for very little was blowing at McMurdo Sound, despite its persistent rage where we were. Throughout the day, we all listened anxiously and tried to get Lake at intervals, but invariably without results. About noon, a positive frenzy of wind stampeded out of the west, causing us to fear for the safety of our camp. But it eventually died down, with only a moderate relapse at 2 p.m. After 3 o'clock, it was very quiet. We redoubled our efforts to get Lake. Reflecting that he had 4 planes, each provided with an excellent shortwave outfit, We could not imagine any ordinary accident capable of crippling all his wireless equipment at once. Nevertheless, the stony silence continued, and when we thought of the delirious force the wind must have had in his vitality, we could not help making the more direful conjectures. By 6 o'clock, our fears had become intense and definite, and after a wireless consultation with Douglas and Thorfinson, I resolved to take steps towards investigation. The fifth aeroplane, which we had left at the McMurdo Sound supply cache with Sherman and 2 sailors, was in good shape and ready for instant use, and it seemed that the very emergency for which it had been saved was now upon us. I got Sherman by wireless and ordered him to join me with the plane, and the two sailors at the southern base as quickly as possible. The air conditions being apparently highly favorable. We then talked over the personnel of the coming investigation party and decided that we would include all hands together with the sledge and dogs which I had kept with me. Even so great a load would not be too much for one of the huge planes built to our special orders for heavy machinery transportation. At intervals, I still tried to reach Lake with the wireless, but all to no purpose. So Lake went to investigate and they lost contact with him? Ooh. Sherman, with the sailors, Gunnarsson and Larson, took off at 7:30 and reported a quiet flight from several points on the wing. They arrived at a base at midnight and all hands at once discussed the next move. It was risky business sailing over the Antarctic in a single aeroplane without any line of bases, but no one drew back from what seemed like the plainest necessity. We turned in at 2 o'clock for a brief rest after some preliminary loading of the plane, and were up again in 4 hours to finish the loading and packing. At 7:15 a.m. January 25th, we started flying northwestward under McTighe's pilotage with 10 men, 7 dogs, a sledge, a fuel and food supply, and other items, including the plane's wireless outfit. The atmosphere was clear, fairly quiet, and relatively mild in temperature, and we anticipated very little trouble in reaching the latitude and longitude designated by Lake as the site of his camp. Our apprehensions were over what we might find or fail to find at the end of our journey, for Silence continued to answer all calls dispatched to the camp. Every incident of that 4.5-hour flight was burned into my recollection because of its crucial position in life. It marked my loss at the age of 54 of all that peace and balance which the normal mind possesses through its accustomed conception of external nature and nature's law. Thenceforward, the 10 of us, but the student Danforth and myself above all others, were to face a hideously amplified world of lurking horrors which nothing can erase from our emotions, and which we would refrain from sharing with mankind in general if we could. The newspapers had printed the bulletins we sent from the moving plane, telling of our non-stop course. Our 2 battles with treacherous upper air gales, our glimpse of the broken surface where Lake had sunk his mid-journey shaft 3 days before, and our sight of the and our sight of a group of those strange fluffy snow cylinders noted by Admundsen and Bird as rolling in the wind across the endless leagues of frozen plateau. There came a point, though, when our sensations could not be conveyed in any words the press would understand, and a latter point when we had to adopt an actual rule of strict censorship. The sailor Larsen was first to spy the jagged line of witch-like cones and pinnacles ahead, and his shouts sent everyone to the windows of the great cabined plane. Despite our speed, they were very slow in gaining prominence, hence we knew that they must be infinitely far off, and visible only because of their abnormal height. I just realized I needed to do something. There we go. Is that better? That's probably better. Where am I up to? Normal heights. Little by little, however, they rose grimly into the western sky, allowing us to distinguish various bare, bleak, blackish summits, and to catch the curious sense of fantasy which they inspired as seen in the reddish Antarctic light against a provocative background of iridescent ice dust clouds. Hello, Happy Cow. Hello, KV. Hello, Emo Demon here. Hello. How was your day? In the whole spectacle, there was a persistent, pervasive hint of stupendous secrecy and potential revelation. It was as if these dark nightmare spires marked the pylons of a frightful gateway into forbidden spheres of dream and complex gulfs of remote time, space, and ultra-dimensionality. I could not help feeling that they were evil things, fountains of madness, whose farther slopes looked out over some accursed ultimate abyss. That seething half-luminous cloud background held ineffable suggestions of a vague ethereal beyondness far more than terrestrially spatial, and gave appalling reminders of the utter remoteness, separateness, desolation, and aeon-long death of this untrodden, unfathomed austral world. Good. I'm still sick. Better, but still sick. I am taking a sip after every paragraph. Very dry coughs. Speed run. No, I'll give you time. My paragraph right now is, it was young Danforth. Bruh, what do you mean, bruh? I'm still clearing my throat occasionally. It's cold today. It was weird. I wasn't prepared for the cold. It was in the low 10s today. And usually it's in the 20s. But today it was in the low 10s. Let me see tomorrow's thing. Tomorrow will be very similar, so I need to be prepared, a bit more prepared for the cold. But then it warms up again. Davey, tell me when you caught up. Let me know. I added the new 7 TV emote, or a new 7 TV emote. Only because I thought you would be better by now. No, I take a while actually. I take a while. Should I have... I might just have one eye. Yeah. Easier. But still, unlisted. I'm already okay. Since the last two streams, I take a while, really. I really do take a while. It was young Danforth who drew our notice to the curious regularities of the higher mountain skyline. Regularities like clinging fragments of perfect cubes, which Lake had mentioned in his messages, and which indeed justified his comparison with the dreamlike suggestion of primordial temple ruins. Hello, Dachitu. Dachitu. I'm sorry, I butchered your name. How do I pronounce? Please tell me. Which indeed justified his comparison with the dreamlike suggestions of primordial temple ruins on cloudy Asian mountaintops that's so subtly and strangely painted by Rorik. Just Dachi OK. Hello. There was indeed something hauntingly Rorik like about this whole unearthly continent of mountainous mystery. I had felt it in October when we first caught sight of Victoria Land, and I felt it afresh now. I felt to another wave of uneasy consciousness, of archaic mythical resemblance, of how disturbingly this lethal realm corresponded to the evilly famed plateau of Leng in the primal writings. Hello, Azure. I adore how all these books is Lovecraft describing how impossible it is to describing these beings. Yeah. Mythologists have placed Leng in Central Asia, but the racial memory of man or of his predecessors is long, and it may well be that certain tales have come down from lands and mountains, temples of horror, earlier than Asia and earlier than any human world we know. A few daring mystics have hinted at a pre-Pleistocene origin for the fragmentary narcotic manuscripts, and have suggested that the devotees of Sathorgua were as alien to mankind as Sathorgua itself. Leng, wherever in space or time it might brood, was not a region I would care to be in or near. Nor did I relish the proximity of a world that had ever bred such ambiguous and archaic monstrosities as those Lake had just mentioned. At the moment, I felt sorry that I had ever read the abhorred Necronomicon, or talked so much with that unpleasantly erudite folklorist Wilmarth at the university. Ineffable. I think it's crazy how it's March and I've already been sick twice. Really? 1 year, nearly 2 years. Dang, okay. Since Amori. Oh my god, Amori. This mood undoubtedly served to aggravate my reaction to the bizarre mirage which burst upon us from the increasingly opalescent zenith as we drew near the mountains and began to make out the cumulative undulations of the foothills. I had seen dozens of polar mirages during the preceding weeks, some of them quite as uncanny and fantastically vivid as the present example. But this one had a wholly novel and obscure quality of menacing symbolism, and I shuddered as a seething labyrinth of fabulous walls and towers and minarets loomed out of the troubled ice vapors above our heads. The effect was that of a cyclopean city, of no architecture known to man or to human imagination, with vast aggregations of night-black masonry, embodying monstrous perversions of geometrical laws. There were truncated cones, sometimes terraced or fluted, surmounted by tall cylindrical shafts here and there, bulbously enlarged, and often capped with tiers of thinnish scalloped discs, and strange beetling table-like constructions suggesting piles of multitudinous rectangular slabs or circular plates or five-pointed stars, with each one overlapping the one beneath. There were composite cones and pyramids, either alone or surmounting cylinders or cubes, or flatter truncated cones and pyramids, and occasional needle-like spires in curious clusters of five. All of these feeble structures seemed knit together by tubular bridges crossing from one to the other at various dizzying heights, and the implied scale of the whole was terrifying and oppressive in its sheer gigantism. The general type of mirage was not unlike some of the wilder forms observed and drawn by the Arctic whaler Scoresby in 1820, but at this time and place, with those dark, unknown mountain peaks soaring stupendously ahead, that anomalous elder world discovery in our minds, and the pall of probable disaster enveloping the greater part of our expedition, we all seemed to find in it a taint of latent malignity and infinitely evil portent. Did I keep track of how many coughs you do again? No. These books seem much more like a warning to humanity, though, talking about these beings that live beyond and gaze upon us as mere insects that don't need acknowledgement. He also shows how if any of these beings did gaze upon us with interest, we wouldn't be ones to appreciate it. That is true. I feel like a lot of alien and unknown extraterrestrial literature and shows show how humanity just don't react well to things that are different, things that are alien. And I think it is true to some degree, even like amongst ourselves. And I think it's sad. And I think in a way, it kind of shows that humanity is still so young. There's so much growing and so much growing and so much growth to do and to expect. Yeah. We haven't been here for even 1 billion years. We're so young. And it's so sad. Like the fact that we can't even accept ourselves. Just because some of us look different to others, we act so aggressive in response and out of fear. It's mostly out of fear, I feel like. And the need to make sense of things. I hate humanity, man. I was glad when the mirage began to break up, though in the process of various nightmare turrets and cone assumed distorted temporary forms of even vaster hideousness. As the whole illusion dissolved to churning opalescence, we began to look earthward again, and saw that our journey's end was not far off. The unknown mountains ahead rose dizzily up like a fearsome rampart of giants, their curious regularity showing with startling clearness even without a field glass. We were over the lowest foothills now and could see amidst the snow, ice, and bare patches of their main plateau a couple of darkish spots which we took to be Lakes Camp and Boring. The higher foothills shot up between 5 and 6 miles away, forming a range almost distinct from the terrifying line of more than Himalayan peaks beyond them. At length, Ropes, the students who had relieved McTighe at the controls, began to head downward towards the left-hand dark spot whose size marked it as the camp. As he did so, McTighe sent out the last uncensored wireless message the world has to receive from our expedition. It also has such a deep sense of hopelessness imbued in it. We think the ones higher above are some benevolent gods who want the best for us, but all of that shatters the moment you learn about Naira Lothel. I don't know what that is. That comment just shows how innocent and, again, young humanity is. I think some people the people who have been through a lot, who've seen a lot, the ones that are really untrusting of people are the ones who will always assume the worst out of people first. And I feel like humanity hasn't experienced enough of that, just based on your comment. Humanity. Everyone, of course, has read the brief and unsatisfying bulletins of the rest of our Antarctic sojourn. Some hours after our landing, we sent our guarded report of the tragedy we found and reluctantly announced the wiping out of the whole lake party by the frightful wind of the preceding day, or of the night before that. 11 known dead, young Gedney missing. People pardoned our hazy lack of details through realization of the shock the sad event must have caused us, and believed us when we explained that the mangling action of the wind had rendered all 11 bodies unsuitable for transportation outside. Indeed, I flatter myself that even in the midst of our distress, utter bewilderment, and soul-clutching horror, we scarcely went beyond the truth in any specific instance. The tremendous significance lies in what we dared not tell, what I would not tell now, but for the need of warning others off from nameless terrors. It is a fact that the wind had brought dreadful havoc. Whether all could have lived through it, even without the other thing, is gravely open to doubt. The storm, with its fury of madly driven ice particles, must have been beyond anything our expedition had encountered before. One aeroplane shelter wall, it seems, had been left in a far too flimsy and inadequate state, was nearly pulverized, and the derrick at the distant Boring was entirely shaken to pieces. The exposed metal of the grounded planes and drilling machinery was bruised into a high polish, and 2 of the small tents were flattened despite their snow banking. Wooden surfaces left out in the blaster were pitted and denuded of paint, and all signs of tracks in the snow were completely obliterated. It is also true that we found none of the archaean biological objects in a condition to take outside as a whole. We did gather some minerals from a vast tumbled pile, including several of the greenish soapstone fragments whose odd 5-pointed rounding and faint patterns of grouped dots caused so many doubtful comparisons, and some fossil bones, among which were the most typical of the curiously injured specimens. None of the dogs survived. No! The hurriedly built snow enclosure near the camp being almost wholly destroyed. Did the creatures wake up? There was no way of knowing. Who knows? The wind may have done that, though the greater breakage on the side next to the camp, which was not the windward one, suggests an outward leap or break of the frantic beasts themselves. All 3 sledges were gone, and we have tried to explain that the wind may have blown them off into the unknown. The drill and ice melting machinery at the boring were too badly damaged to warrant salvage, so we used them to choke up that subtly disturbing gateway to the pass which Lake had blasted. We likewise left at the camp the 2 most shaken up of the planes, since our surviving party had only 4 real pilots, Sherman, Danforth, McTighe, and Ropes, in all, with Danforth in a poor nervous shape to navigate. We brought back all the books, scientific equipment, and other incidentals we could find, though much was rather unaccountably blown away. Spare tents and furs were either missing or badly out of condition. Damn. It was approximately 4 p.m. after wide plain cruising had forced us to give Gedney up for lost that we sent our guarded message to the Arkham for relaying, and I think we did well to keep it as calm and non-committal as we succeeded in doing. The most we said about agitation concerning our dogs, whose frantic uneasiness near the biological specimens was to be expected from poor Lake's accounts. We did not mention, I think, the display of the same uneasiness when sniffing around the queer greenish soapstones and certain other objects in the disordered region. Objects including scientific instruments, aeroplanes, and machinery, both at the camp and at the boring, whose parts has been loosened, moved, or otherwise tampered with by winds that must have harbored singular curiosity and investigativeness. About 14 biological specimens were pardonably indefinite. We said that the only ones we discovered were damaged, but that enough was left of them to prove Lake's description wholly and impressively accurate. It was hard work keeping our personal emotions out of this matter, and we did not mention numbers or say exactly how we had found those which we did find. We had by that time agreed not to transmit anything suggesting madness on the part of Lake's men, and it surely looked like madness to find 6 imperfect monstrosities carefully buried upright in 9-foot snow graves under 5 pointed mounds, punched over with groups of dots in patterns exactly those on the queer greenish soapstones dug up from Mesozoic or Tertiary times. The 8 perfect specimens mentioned by Lake seem to have been completely blown away. We were careful too about the public's general peace of mind, hence Danforth and I said little about that frightful trip over the mountains the next day. It was the fact that only a radically lightened plane could possibly cross a range of such height, which mercifully limited that scouting tour to the 2 of us. On our return at 1 a.m, Danforth was close to hysterics, but kept an admirably stiff upper lip. It took no persuasions to make him promise not to show our sketches and the other things we brought away in our pockets, not to say anything more to the others than what we had than what we had agreed to relay outside and to hide our camera films for private development later on. So that part of my present story will be as new to Peabody, McTighe, Ropes, Sherman, and the rest as it will be to the world in general. Indeed, Danforth is closer mouthed than I, for he saw or thinks he saw one thing he will not even tell me. Ooh, what is it? Am I cutting off? I feel like I am still. As all know, our report included a tale of hard ascent, a confirmation of Lake's opinion that the great peaks are of Archean slate and other very primal crumbled strata unchanged since at least Middle Comanchian times, and a conventional comment on the regularity of the clinging cube and rampart formations. A decision that the cave mouths indicate dissolved calcareous veins, a conjecture that certain slopes and passes would permit of the scaling and crossing of the entire range by seasoned mountaineers, and a remark that the mysterious other side holds a lofty and immense super plateau as ancient and unchanging as the mountains themselves, 20,000 feet in elevation, with grotesque rock formations protruding through a thin glacial layer, and with low gradual foothills between the general plateau surface and the sheer precipices of the highest peaks. We start with, as in previous book, a lot of explanatory text where not much happens. Hopefully it gets a little bit actiony later on. It might not. Who knows? This body of data is in every respect true so far as it goes, and it completely satisfied the men at the camp. We laid our absence of 16 hours, a longer time than our announced flying, landing, and reconnoitering and rock collecting program called for, to a long mythical spell of adverse winter conditions, and told truly of our landing on the farther foothills. Fortunately, our tale sounded realistic and prosaic enough to not tempt any of the others into emulating our flight. Had any tried to do that, I would have used every ounce of my persuasion to stop them, and I do not know what Danforth would have done. While we were gone, Peabody, Sherman, Ropes, McTighe, and Williamson had worked like beavers over Lake's two best planes, fitting them again for use despite the altogether unaccountable juggling of their operative mechanism. I realize a lot of Lovecraft stories they're like diaries. We decided to load all the planes the next morning and start back for our old base as soon as possible. Even though indirect, that was the safest way to work towards McMurdo Sound, for a straight-line flight across the most utterly unknown stretches of the aeon-dead continent would involve many additional hazards. Further exploration was hardly feasible in view of our tragic decimation and the ruin of our drilling machinery. The doubts and horrors around us, which we did not reveal, made us wish only to escape from this austral world of desolation and brooding madness as swiftly as we could. As the public knows, our return to the world was accomplished without further disasters. All planes reached the old base on the evening of the next day, January 27th, after a swift non-stop flight, and on the 28th we made McMurdo Sound in 2 laps, the one pause being very brief and occasioned by a faulty rudder in the furious wind over the ice shelf after we had cleared the Great Plateau. In 5 days more, the Arkham and Miskatonic and I'm sorry. Hello, Nami. Hello. Hello. In 5 days more, the Arkham and Miskatonic, with all hands and equipment on board, were shaking clear of the thickening field ice and working up Ross Sea with the mocking mountains of Victoria Land, looming westward against a troubled Antarctic sky, and twisting the wind's wails into a wide-range musical piping which chilled my soul to the quick. Less than a fortnight later, we left the last hint of polar land behind us and thanked heaven that we were clear of a haunted, accursed realm where life and death, space and time have made black and blasphemous alliances in the unknown epoch since matter first writhed and swam on the planet's scarce cooled crust. But all they have left are memories. Ah, so it's like a journal or diary. How are you, Toki no Nami? Since our return, we have all constantly worked to discourage Antarctic explorations, and have kept certain doubts and guesses to ourselves with splendid unity and faithfulness. Even young Danforth, with his nervous breakdown, has not flinched or babbled to his doctors. Indeed, as I have said, there is one thing he thinks he saw, which he will not tell even me. Though I think it would help his psychological state if he would consent to do so. It might explain and relieve much, though perhaps the thing was no more than the delusive aftermath of an earlier shock. That is the impression I gather after those rare irresponsible moments when he whispers disjointed things to me, things which he repudiates vehemently as soon as he gets a grip on himself again. I'm doing good. My leg is a bit hurt from horse riding earlier. Ooh, you were riding a horse? I'm still sick, so I'm recovering. Ooh, horse riding? I haven't ridden a horse in a long time. Actually, no. I rode a pony. That wasn't a horse. Yeah, they returned without too many problems. Yeah, it very sus. I suspect something's going to happen to Danforth because he saw something. I do horse riding archery almost daily unless it rains. Really? Is it like a hobby thing or a job thing? Oh, that's cool. I think doing outdoor stuff like that is so cool. Oh, I'm a very slow recovery person. My co-worker today called me an unhealthy Vegemite. You rode a donkey? Ooh. Hobby thing. I just graduated, so I'm very bored. Ah, that's a good thing. Good thing to kind of go into hobbies. I didn't really have any hobbies, so now I'm here. I started to stream to find hobbies, and I don't really have hobbies still. Yeah, they call me an unhealthy Vegemite. Because I was coughing so much in between seeing people, and one old lady was like, oh yeah, I always have a mint in my mouth because of dry coughs, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So I had a mint in my mouth all day. Yeah, unhealthy Vegemite. Because I got sick early in the year, I got sick in the new year, and now I'm sick again. I'm a very grass-touching person, but now I don't really have purpose, and loneliness has really struck me hard. No! Riding a horse with a bow can be boring. Value yourself. I want to do that. No one riding a horse. Yeah, I want to do that too, but I'm not a very active person. I feel like when you are riding and archerying, are you doing it with other people or is it just yourself? Doing for years, but I slowly kind of feel bored. Ah. Yeah, I'm not sure what else you can do. I want to be a grass touching person. I do it alone in my dad's farm. Oh, that's why you feel lonely. Is there no society or groups in your area who do that? Because I know I have a coworker who used to do this is banned now apparently, but mountain riding, like horses. She nearly died a few times actually. Where am I up to? It will be hard work deterring others from the Great White South, and some of our efforts may directly harm our cause by drawing inquiring notice. We might have known from the first that human curiosity is undying, and the results we announce would be enough to spur others ahead in the same age-long pursuit of the unknown. Lake's reports of those biological monstrosities had aroused naturalists, paleontologists to the highest pitch, though we were sensible enough to not show the detached parts we had taken from the actual buried specimens, and our photographs of those specimens as they were found. We also refrained from showing the more puzzling of the scarred bones and greenish soapstones, while Danforth and I closely guarded the pictures we took or drew on the super plateau across the range, and the crumbled things we smoothed, studied in terror, and brought away in our pockets. All my friends is like 2 states away and don't really know people in my area. Time to get to know them. Yeah, she used to do, she started doing it when she was like 14 or 16 or something like that. And because of the horse riding, the muscle in front of her shin is like built. It's like really, really built. It sticks out for some reason. Because of the position she has to put her feet in. I didn't know you had muscle in that area, but I guess it makes sense. But now that Starkweather Moor party is organizing, and with the thoroughness far beyond anything our outfit attempted, if not dissuaded, they will get the innermost nucleus of the Antarctic and melt and bore till they bring up that which we know may end the world. I must break through all reticences at last, even about that ultimate nameless thing beyond the mountains of madness. Or rather, not the kind of route to my family. Oh, really? Oh, okay. I'm gonna go get more water. Hello again. Wata wata. That was chapter 3. That was faster than I thought. Actually, no, that was 50 minutes. Wata wata. Ay. I wonder if my voice is the way it is because of all the sick days I've had. Who knows? My model may be a little bit weird today because I've got glasses on. Haha. It seems shorter because there are less hard words, probably. Yeah, it did still take 50 minutes though, so which is very long. So basically in chapter 3, we went to find the guys who went ahead, and we found them all torn up and everything, and we brought everything what we can back to the real world. We left the Antarctic, brought what we can, and we saw stuff, and we hid stuff from the public as well. I love the chicken emotes. They're so cute. Chicken banana. Chicken banana. What is H.P. Lovecraft even about? He's weird. I think it's mainly about the unknown. Chicken banana. Chicken banana. Chicken banana. Probably some will end up returning to the mountains forever. Yeah. Ooh, ad break. Ad break's coming up in 5 minutes. Should we wait until ad breaks are over before we start chapter 4? Maybe. Maybe. Chicken banana. Chicken banana. I was actually tempted to make a video with that meme, that sound. But I decided against it. For the sake of everyone's mentalities. For the sake of everyone's mental. Never heard of that sound? It's like a weird meme sound people dance to, or they made like videos. Just search up chicken banana. It's like the Avengers, but with extra dimensional beings. All the stories take place more or less in the same world, one similar to ours. Yeah. Chicken banana. Chicken banana. It's catchy. Banana. Chicken banana. Chicken banana. Chicken banana. Banana. Yeah, extraterrestrial horror, the unknown. The dog, hello. Who's Junaing up? Who's Junaing there? Juna, clean up aisle, my pants. What? Huh? Eh? The Eldritch horror. It's the unknown. Chicken banana. Chicken banana. Just wake up to chicken banana. I'm sorry. Banana. Try to pick up a few of his books. They're all public domain, so you can find them online. I'm just waiting for the ad break to start and for the ad break to finish, and then I'll start chapter 4. That's a good idea, me. Good job, me. Chicken banana. Chicken banana. Banana. Chicken. I like the chicken emotes. You know what? I need mascot emotes. Stories are more like the author slowly becoming worn down by what they know and seeing that a fist fight has a certain charm. Banana. Oh, the strong. Oh, we need that too. The strong. Strong I also want those wiggly emotes, so connected wiggly ones. I also recently had the thought that I shouldn't hold myself back in terms of emotes and ideas because of how little emote space I have. So I'm gonna throw what I have left into 7TV so they can be used. Though this chat doesn't really use 7TV emotes much. I'll attach names of I'll name them things that we commonly say, like the high one. And I saw the chicken banana song. I was like, bro, have you seen the dance? There was this old lady dance that I saw, which was great. Where was it? The Devon Maid. I loved this one. It was very cursed. I saw KFC post. Really? I'm gonna search it up. KFC. This is KFC UKI. Chicken banana. Chicken banana. Yeah, that old lady's great. It is a real song. You thought I was making it up? You thought I was making it up? Chicken, banana, chicken, banana. It's you after all, what do you mean? I heard TikTok is funny. She's just so random. Chicken, banana, chicken, banana, chicken, banana, chicken, banana. That's the kind of stuff I watch in my spare time. Ha 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 ha. Okay, we're gonna wait for ads to be over and then we'll continue chapter 4. Ah ha 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 ha. You're sorry you're late? Don't be sorry. What do you mean you're sorry? I'm just waiting for ads to pass. What do you mean you're sorry? Don't be sorry, never be sorry. Okay, chapter 4. It is only with vast hesitancy and repugnance that I let my mind go back to Lake's camp and what we really found there, and to that other things beyond the mountains of madness. I am constantly tempted to shirk the details and to let hints stand for actual facts and ineluctable deductions. I hope I have said enough already to let me glide briefly over the rest, that is, of the horror at the camp. I've told of the wind-ravaged terrain, the damaged shelters, the disarranged machinery, the varied uneasiness of our dogs, the missing sledges and other items, the deaths of men and dogs, the absence of Gedney, and the 6 insanely buried biological specimens, strangely sound in texture for all their structural injuries. From a world 40 million years dead, I do not recall whether I mentioned that upon checking up the canine bodies we found one dog missing. We did not think much about that till later. Indeed, only Danforth and I have thought of it at all. I just saw the most terrifying thing on your feed. What? I'm regular at this point. I don't like not tuning in. No, you're fine. You're fine. Honestly. Oh, the new emote worked. Wait, do you guys see the new emote or nah? The 7 TV, if you have 7 TV. The hi? When you say hi, 7 TV? Do you have 7 TV or no? I assume that's a no, probably. What's that? So 7 TV is like an extension. Oh, the phone, okay. The 7 TV is an extension where there's additional emotes and all the other stuff that can be used instead of just the Twitch emotes. And I am thinking of putting some of my Chrome extension, yes. I'm on GX Opera, GX, and that also works as well. Yeah, for me, I'm thinking of adding more emotes to that, uploading them so it doesn't subs not required to use them or see them. The principal things I have been keeping back relate to the bodies and to certain subtle points which may or may not lend a hideous and incredible kind of rationale to the apparent chaos. I will hydrate, thank you. I wouldn't have made it if I slept on time, bruh, why? At the time, I tried to keep the men's minds off those points, for it was so much simpler, so much more normal to lay everything to an outbreak of madness on the part of some of Lake's party. From the look of things, that demon mountain wind must have been enough to drive any man mad in the midst of the center of all earthly mystery and desolation. Please sleep. Or just sleep with me, have me on and go to sleep. Jesus Christ. The crowning abnormality, of course, was the condition of the bodies. Men and dogs alike. They had all been in some terrible kind of conflict and were torn and mangled in fiendish and altogether inexplicable ways. Death, so far as we could judge, had in each case come from strangulation or laceration. The dogs had evidently started the trouble, for the state of their ill-built coral bore witness to its forcible breakage from within. It had been set some distance from the camp because of the hatred of the animals for those hellish arcane organisms, but the precaution seemed to have been taken in vain. When left alone in the monstrous wind, behind flimsy walls of insufficient height, they must have stampeded, whether from wind itself or from some subtle, increasing odor emitted by their nightmare specimens, one could not say. I just realized your model. What did you see before? May... Okay, you've been following since last year. Wait, what did you see before? The book and mainly staring at the horse. In the past as well? We blame the horse, yes. The horse is beautiful, isn't it? But yes, the artist is cracked. I don't think I've been here before. Oh, really? You followed last year. Huh. But yeah, the artist is cracked. He drew it with a mouse. I always say that. Drew it with a mouse. No, Persona. Persona. No, you've been here before. Yeah, with a mouse. Did that work? I can't tell anymore. Oh my god. Yeah, with a mouse. He didn't have a what do you call those? Tablet then. He did not have a drawing tablet back then. Memory's unusable these days. You're fine. You're fine. I like the chicken still. Yeah, I am still sick. But whatever had happened, it was hideous and revolting enough. Perhaps I had better put squeamishness aside and tell the worst at last. Though, with a categorical statement of opinion, based on the first-hand observations and most rigid deductions of both Danforth and myself, that the then missing Gedney was in no way responsible for the loathsome horrors we have found. I have said that the bodies were frightfully mangled. Now I must add somewhat incised and subtracted from in the most curious, cold-blooded, and inhuman fashion. It was the same with dogs and men, or the healthier, fattier bodies, quadrupedal or bipedal, had the most solid masses of tissues cut out and removed as by a careful butcher, and around them was a strange sprinkling of salt, taken from the ravaged provisions chest on the plains, which conjured up the most horrible associations. The thing had occurred in one of the crude airplane shelters from which the plane had been dragged out, and subsequent had effaced all tracks which could have supplied any plausible theory. Scattered bits of clothing roughly slashed from the human incision subjects hinted no clues. It is useless to bring up the half impression of certain faint snow prints in one shielded corner of the ruined enclosure, Because that impression did not concern human prints at all, but was clearly mixed up with all the talk of fossil prints which poor Lake had been giving throughout the preceding weeks, one had to be careful of one's imagination in the lee of those overshadowing mountains of madness. Fruits for snacks? No. Drinking Wawa. Vitamins? I have a vitamin supplement thing. I ate already, it's fine. I love the chicken emos, oh my god. I need to look into it. Supplements, because I'm sick. Like a supplement drink. As I have indicated, Gedney and one dog turned out to be missing in the end. When we came on that terrible shelter, we had missed 2 dogs and 2 men, but the fairly unharmed dissecting tent, which we entered after investigating the monstrous graves, had something to reveal. It was not as Lake had left it, for the covered parts of the primal monstrosity had been removed from the improvised table. Indeed, we had already realized that one of the 6 imperfect and insanely buried things we had found, the one with a trace of peculiarly hateful odor, must represent the collected sections of the entity which Lake had tried to analyze. On and around that laboratory table were strewn other things, and did not take long for us to guess that those things were the carefully, though oddly and inexpertly dissected parts of 1 man and 1 dog. I shall spare the feelings of survivors by omitting mention of the man's identity. Lake's anatomical instruments were missing, and there was evidences of their careful cleansing. The gasoline stove was also gone, though around it we found a curious list of matches. We buried the human parts beside the other 10 men, and the canine parts with the other 35 dogs. Concerning the bizarre smudges in the laboratory table and on the jumble of roughly handled illustrated books scattered near it, we were much too bewildered to speculate. I love the chicken. Oh, I already follow them.
Thank you for liking my voice.
Thank you.
Rest in peace.
Concerning the bizarre smudges on the laboratory table and on the jumble of roughly handled illustrated books scattered near it, we were much too bewildered to speculate. Rest in peace. That was my voice. Rest in peace. This formed the worst of the camp horror, but other things were equally perplexing. The disappearance of Gedney, the 1 dog, the 8 uninjured biological specimens, 3 sledges, and certain instruments, illustrated technical and scientific books, writing materials, electric torches and batteries, food and fuel, heating apparatus, spare tents, fursuits, and the like was utterly beyond sane conjecture, as were likewise the spattered French ink blots on certain pieces of paper, and the evidences of curious alien fumbling and experimentation around the planes, and all other mechanical evidences, both at the camp and at the boring. The dog seemed to abhor this oddly disordered machinery. Then, too, there was the upsetting of the larder, the disappearance of certain staples, and the jarringly comical heap of tin cans pried open in the most unlikely ways and at the most unlikely places. The profusion of scattered matches, intact, broken, or spent, formed another minor enigma. as did the 2 or 3 tent cloths and fursuits which we found lying about with peculiar and unorthodox slashings, conceivably due to clumsy efforts at unimaginable adaptations. The maltreatment of the human and canine bodies and the crazy burial of the damaged Archaean specimens were all of a piece, and this apparent disintegrative madness, in view of just such an eventuality as the present one, we carefully photographed all the main evidences of insane disorder at the camp, and shall use the prints to buttress our pleas against the departure of the proposed dark weather moor expedition. That was me, yes. Zooey, mama.
Yes, that was me. Blah, 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 blah.
I'm sorry. Zooey, mama. But you hurt your throat now. I'm okay. Our first act after finding the bodies in the shelter was to photograph and open the row of insane graves with the 5-pointed snow mounds. We could not help noticing the resemblance of these monstrous mounds with their clusters of grouped dots, the poor lake description of the strange greenish soapstones, and when we came on some of the soapstones themselves and the great mineral pile, we found the likeness very close indeed. The whole general formation, it must be made clear, seemed abominably suggestive of the starfish head of the arcane entities, and we agreed that the suggestion must have worked potently upon the sensitized minds of Lake's overwrought party. It makes strange emphasis on the missing dog. Yeah. You used to whisper into the mic? I did. When I was living with my parents, I used to sound like this, just very quiet, very close to the mic. Yeah, my voice range is normal. I feel like it's normal. I just do really weird things with my voice. I know I have a weird feeling, or I think it's pretty obvious that in the future, my voice will be completely destroyed. Because of the things I do with my voice. Is this novel in a series? No. It's just, I feel like they're all connected, all his stories are connected. We lost good habits. I know, I looked at it and I paused and I said it correctly. Abominable. Abominably. Yes! Yesy. The emphasis on the missing dogs and the missing person. Bob Madness entering in Gedney as the only possible surviving agent was an explanation spontaneously adopted by everybody so far as spoken utterance was concerned. Though I will not be so naive as to deny that each of us may have harbored wild guesses, which sanity forbade him to formulate completely. Sherman, Peabody, McTighe made an exhaustive aeroplane cruise over the surrounding territory in the afternoon, sweeping the horizon with field glasses in quest of Gedney and of the various missing things, but nothing came to light. The party reported that the Titan barrier range extended endlessly to the right and to left alike, without any diminution in height or essential structure. On some of the peaks, though, the regular cube and rampart formations were bolder and plainer, having doubly fantastic similitudes and Roerick painted Asian hill ruins. The distribution of cryptical cave mouths and the black snow-denuded summits seemed roughly even as far as the range could be traced. Just low-key knock me out. Best way to sleep. Yes, KV, bonk him. I need a bonk emote. I need so many emotes. I need them. I'm gonna get them. And no, I need to save my money. Yes, bonk. The gun. Could I do it? Mic Paps? No, you know, instead of the mic one. How was that? Hey yo! Hey yo! I say that works good. Tricking chicken emote. I like that. I want a tricking emote too. I want everything. I want them all. One day I'll get all the different. I see also having an annoying moment. I am. I want all the emotes. I need more emote spaces. Honkshu. Honkshu. Thanks for the follow, Chutoi. Honkshu. Golfing. Oh, I'm having headache. It's so much fun. Right, yeah, I'm sick. I'm sick. Honkshu. I like the chicken so much. Where am I up to? In spite of all the prevailing horrors, we were left with enough sheer scientific zeal and adventurousness to wonder about the unknown realm beyond those mysterious mountains. As our garden messages stated, we rested at midnight after a day of terror and bafflement, but not without a tentative plan for one or more range-crossing altitude flights in a lightened plane with aero camera and geologist outfit. Beginning the following morning, it was decided that Danforth and I try it at first, and we awaked at 7 a.m. intending an early flight. However, heavy winds mentioned in our brief bulletin to the outside world delayed our start till nearly 9 o'clock. He just got over. I hope he gets better. You have a chicken obsession, not to accuse or anything, just speculation. It's just so cute because it's so rounded, and I really like mascot emotes. They're just so cute. I need a mascot emote. Yeah, I like it when the mascots are so rounded. It's just a circle, and they do stupid things like what was it? The weird faces, like the ha and the crying, which is funny, and the hype, which is really cute, and the cheering one, the rave, which is really cute as well. I just like it, okay. I have already repeated the non-committal story we told the men at camp and relayed outside after our return 16 hours later. It is now my terrible duty to amplify this account by filling in the merciful blanks with hints of what we really saw in the hidden transmontane world, hints of the revelation which have finally driven Danforth to a nervous collapse. I wish he would add a really frank word about the thing which he thinks he alone saw, even though it was probably a nervous illusion, and which was perhaps the last straw that put him where he is, but he is firm against that. All I can do is repeat his later disjointed whispers about what set him streaking as the plane soared back through the wind-tortured mountain pass after that real and tangible shock which I shared. This will form my last word. If the plain signs of surviving elder horrors in which I disclosed be not enough to keep others from meddling with the inner Antarctic, or at least from prying too deeply beneath the surface of that ultimate waste of forbidden secrets and inhuman, aeon-cursed desolation, the responsibility for unnameable and perhaps immeasurable evils will not be mine. I bite stuff that I find cute. Yes, I want to eat them. I want to eat it. Danforth and I, studying the notes made by Peabody in his afternoon flight and checking up with a sextant, had calculated that the lowest available pass in the range lay somewhat to the right of us, within range of camp, and about 23,000 or 24,000 feet above sea level. For this point, then, we first headed in the lightened plane as we embarked on a flight of discovery. The camp itself on foothills, which sprang from a high continental plateau, was some 12,000 feet in altitude, hence the actual height increase necessary was not so vast as it might seem. Nevertheless, we were acutely conscious of the rarefied air and intense cold as we rose, for on account of visibility conditions, we had to leave the cabin windows open. We were dressed, of course, in our heaviest furs. I'm drifting. I'm trying, I promise. Good job. Good boy. Good boy. A biter, yes. Yes. I eat, you bite. It's okay. I will chew. You bite, I chew. The last time I said I'll eat you 100%, no hesitation, I got banned. Really? Wait, in response to what? They probably weren't comfortable with it, huh? What did you do? What did you do? You're alright with it? Oh. So what happened? Why were you banned? As we drew near the forbidding peaks dark and sinister above the line of crevice-riven snow and interstitial glaciers, we noticed more and more the curiously regular formations clinging to the slopes, and thought again of the strange Asian paintings of Nicholas Roerich, the ancient and wind-weathered rock strata fully verified of Lakes Bulletin, and proved that these pinnacles have been towering up in exactly the same way since a surprisingly early time in Earth's history, perhaps over 50 million years. How much higher they had once been, it was futile to guess, but everything about this strange region pointed to obscure atmospheric influences, unfavorable to change and calculated to retard the usual climatic processes of rock disintegration. Hello, Lee. You're sick and decide to read a book? Yes. Yes. I don't have a big enough presence on Twitch to be banned from anywhere. If you were to do something stupid, you will be banned. It's got nothing to do with your presence. Some places, if you make them uncomfortable, even if you didn't say anything wrong, if you make them uncomfortable, they will ban you. Oh, they were friends? She wanted to? Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. Good. I thought you meant like for real, like you did something wrong. I mostly get banned by friends. Yeah. I'm usually the one that does the banning, so I get you. But it was a mountainside tangle of regular cubes, rampart, and cave mouths which fascinated and disturbed us the most. I studied them with a field glass and took aerial photographs while Danforth drove, and at times I relieved him at the controls, though my aviation knowledge was purely an amateur's, in order to let him use the binoculars. purely in amateurs in order to let him use the binoculars. We could easily see that much of the material of the things was lightish Archean quartzite, unlike any formation visible over broad areas of the general surface, and that their regularity was extreme and uncanny to an extent which poor Lake had scarcely hinted. I think they went back. Sleepy dumb brain much is a horrible combo, yes. Time to get to sleep. Try to say something funny when I rock up, and that gets me banned sometimes. Sometimes, you know those people who show up randomly and type huge paragraphs of encouragement? Some people ban those guys as well, even though they mean no harm. It does sometimes appear a little bit spammy. But yeah, I think they went back. No, mostly just send poems. Oh. Ban me like one of your spammer girls? I don't ban a lot of people actually. I ban a lot of the bots. I ban the people that you know how some people make announcements and all that. I ban those guys. I also have shared banned information. I also share banned information with some of the people in the model family. So if I ban you here, you're gonna get labeled when you if you ever show up in their chat. Yep, much sometimes I feel like my presence alone is a spam. Nah, it's appreciated, honestly. It is nice to talk to people. And hence in my rules, if you've ever scrolled down to the panel, I literally mention somewhere along the lines of the information is shared with like close mutuals. If you're banned in a close mutuals chat, your message will be monitored. Yeah, because it literally shows up as monitored. And to those strange and very insistent people who created an account 2 hours ago, we'll ban them too. I don't think I have, unless you have, and I had no idea. Oh, I'm so tired already. Where am I up to? As he had said, the edges were crumbled and rounded from untold aeons of savage weathering, but their preternatural solidity and tough material had saved them from obliteration. Many parts, especially those closest to the slope, seemed identical in substance, and with the surrounding rock surface, the whole arrangement looked like the ruins of Machu Picchu in the Andes, or the primal foundation walls of Quiche, as dug up by the Oxford Field Museum expedition in 1929, and both Danforth and I obtained that occasional impression of separate cyclopean blocks which Lake had attributed to his flight companion Carol. How to account for such things in this place was frankly beyond me, and I felt queerly humbled as a geologist. Igneous formations often have strange regularities, like the famous Giant's Causeway in Ireland, but this stupendous range, despite Lake's original suspicion of smoking cones, was above all else non-volcanic and evident structure. I tend to lurk in low viewers only, so I only ever had to ban bots. Yeah, the bots. The curious cave mouth near which the odd formation seemed most abundant presented another, albeit less a puzzle because of the regularity of outline. Hello, Jellywish. They were, as Lake's bulletin had said, often approximately square or semicircular, as if the natural orifices had been shaped to greater symmetry by some magical hand. Their numerous and wide distribution were remarkable, and suggested that the whole region was honeycombed and with tunnels dissolved out of limestone strata. Such glimpses as we secured did not extend far within the caverns, but we saw that they were apparently clear of stalactites and stalagmites. Outside those parts of the mountain slopes adjoining the aperture seemed invariably smooth and regular, and Danforth thought that the slight cracks and pittings of the weathering tended towards unusual patterns. Bored as he was with the horrors and strangeness discovered at the camp, he hinted that the pitting vaguely resembled those baffling groups of dots sprinkled over the primeval greenish soapstones, so hideously duplicated on the madly conceived snow mounds above those 6 buried monstrosities. We had risen gradually and flying over the higher foothills and along towards the relatively low pass we had selected. As we advanced, we occasionally looked down at the snow and ice of the land route, wondering whether we could have attempted the trip with the simpler equipment of earlier days. Somewhat to our surprise, we saw that the terrain was far from difficult as such things go, and that despite the crevices and other bad spots, it would not have been likely to deter the sledges of a Scot, a Shackleman, or an Amundsen. Some of the glaciers appeared to lead up to wind-bared passes with unusual continuity. And upon reaching our chosen pass, we found that its case formed no exception. I'm drinking. Thank you. Hello, girl. Our sensations of tense expectancy as we prepare to round the crest and peer out over an untrodden world can hardly be described on paper, even though we had no cause to think the regions beyond the range essentially different from those already seen and traversed. The touch of evil mystery in these barren mountains and in the beckoning sea of opalescent sky glimpsed betwixt their summits was a highly subtle and attenuated matter not to be explained in literal words. Rather, it was an affair of vague psychological symbolism and aesthetic association, a thing mixed up with exotic poetry and paintings, and with archaic myths lurking in shunned and forbidden volumes. Even the wind's burden held a peculiar strain of conscious malignancy, and for a second it seemed that the composite sounds included bizarre musical whistling or piping over a wide range as the blast swept in and out of the omnipresent and resonated cave mouths. There was a cloudy note of reminiscent repulsion in this sound, as complex and unplaceable as any of the other dark impressions. We were now, after a slow ascent, at a height of 23,570 feet according to the aneroid, and had left the region of clinging snow indefinitely below us. Up there were only dark, bare rock slopes and the start of rough-ribbed glaciers, but with those provocative cubes and ramparts and echoing cave mouths to add a portent of the unnatural, the fantastic, and the dreamlike. Looking along the line of high peaks, I thought I could see the one mentioned by poor Lake, with a rampart exactly on top. It seemed to be half lost in a queer Antarctic haze. Such a haze perhaps had been responsible for Lake's early notion of volcanism. The park The past loomed directly before us, smooth and windswept between its jagged and malignly frowning pylons. Beyond, it was a sky fretted with swirling vapors and lighted by the low polar sun, a sky of that mysterious far realm upon which we felt no human eye had ever gazed. Hello, Indigo. This is Butternote. This is madness. Madness! A few more feet of altitude and we would behold that realm, Danforth and I unable to speak except in shouts amidst the howling, piping winds that raced through the pass and added to the noise of the unmuffled engines, exchanged eloquent glances, and then having gained those last few feet, we did indeed stare across the momentous divide and over the unsampled secrets of an elder and utterly alien Earth. That was chapter 4. I'm gonna go get more water. How are you, Indigo? Yes, I am back. That took around 40 minutes. Okay, not bad, not bad. Will you also read chapter 5 or are you tired? I will read chapter 5. And chapter 5 will be the last for today. Honestly, even though we've done 4 chapters, I'm not too sure what happened. It's a little bit confusing with all the different descriptions and very, very, very long descriptive paragraphs. Chapter 5. I think that both of us simultaneously cried out in mixed awe, wonder, terror, and disbelief in our own senses as we finally cleared the pass and saw what lay beyond. Of course, we must have had some natural theory in the back of our heads to steady our faculties for the moment. Probably we thought of such things as the grotesquely weathered stones with stones of the Garden of the Gods in Colorado, or the fantastically symmetrical wind-carved rocks of the Arizona desert. Perhaps we even half thought the sight of a mirage like that we had seen the morning before on first approaching those mountains of madness. We must have had some such normal notions to fall back upon our eyes swept that limitless, tempest-scarred plateau and grasped an almost endless labyrinth of colossal, regular, and geometrically eurythmic stone masses which reared their crumpled, pitted crests above a glacial sheet not more than 40 or 50 feet deep at its thickest, and in places obviously thinner. And even knowing that they don't take much trouble to explain what the characters are doing in the middle, it seems like they're teleporting between events. No, I think what happened was they went back, and then him and the guy who saw something decided to go back to the place. So they went back home, and then the main character and the other guy went back to see what's going on. The effect of the monstrous sight was indescribable, for some fiendish violation of known natural law seemed certain at the outset. Here, on a hellishly ancient tableland fully 20,000 feet high, and in a climate deadly to habitation since a pre-human, not less than 500,000 years ago, there stretched nearly to the vision's limit a tangle of orderly stone, which only the desperation of mental self-defense possibly attribute to any but conscious and artificial cause. We had previously dismissed so far as serious serious thought was concerned any theory that the cubes and ramparts of the mountainsides were other than natural in origin. How could they be otherwise when man himself could scarcely have been differentiated from the great apes at the time when this region succumbed to the present unbroken reign of glacial death? Thank you. That was unexpected. Yet now the sway of reason seemed irrefutably shaken, for this cyclopean maze of squared, carved, angled blocks had features which cut off all comfortable refuge. It was very clear the blasphemous city of the mirage in stark, objective, and ineluctable reality. I'm sneezing so much, am I getting even more sick? Uh-oh. That damnable portent had a material basis after all. There had been some horizontal stratum of ice dust in the upper air, and this shocking stone survival had projected its image across the mountains according to the simple laws of reflection. Of course, the phantom had been twisted and exaggerated, and had contained things that which the real source did not contain. Yet now, as we saw the real source, we thought it even more hideous and menacing than its distant image. Only the incredible, unhuman massiveness of these vast stone towers and ramparts had saved the frightful things from utter annihilation. In the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of years it had brooded here. It had brooded there amidst the blast of a bleak upland. Corona Mundi, roof of the world. All sorts of fantastic phrases sprang to our lips as we looked dizzily down at the unbelievable spectacle. I thought again of the eldritch primal myths that had so persistently haunted me since my first sight of this dead Antarctic world, of the demoniac plateau of Leng, of the Migo, or abominable snowmen, the Himalayas, of the narcotic manuscripts with their pre-human implications, of the Cthulhu cult, of the Necronomicon, and of the Hyperborean legends of formless Thorgor and the worse than formless star spawn associated with their semi-entity. For boundless miles in every direction, the thing stretched off with very little thinning. Indeed, as our eyes followed it to the right and left along the base of the low, gradual foothills which separated it from the actual mountain rim, we decided that we could see no thinning at all, except for an interruption at the level of the pass to which we had come. We had merely struck at random a limited part of something of incalculable extent. The foothills were more sparsely sprinkled with grotesque stone structures linking the terrible city to the already familiar cubes and ramparts, which evidently formed its mountain outposts. These latter, as well as the queer cave mouths, were as thick on the inner as on the outer side of the mountains. The nameless stone labyrinth consisted for the most part of walls from 10 to 150 feet in ice-clear height, and of a thickness varying from 5 to 10 feet. It was composed mostly of prodigious blocks of dark primordial slate, schist, and sandstone, blocks in many cases as large as 4 by 6 by 8 feet, though in several places it seemed to be carved out of a solid, uneven bedrock, pre-Cambrian slate. The buildings were far from equal in size, there being innumerable honeycombed arrangements of enormous extent, as well as smaller separate structures. The general shape of these things tended to be conical, pyramidal or terraced, though there were many perfect cylinders, perfect cubes, clusters of cubes, and other rectangular forms, and a peculiar sprinkling of angled edifices whose five-pointed ground plans roughly suggested modern fortification. The builders had made constant and expert use of the principle of the arch, and domes had probably existed in the city's heydays. The whole tangle was monstrously weathered, and the glacial surface from which the towers projected was strewn with fallen blocks and immemorial debris. But the glaciation was transparent. We could see the lower parts of the gigantic piles, and we noticed the ice preservation stone walls which connected the different towers at varying distances above the ground. On the exposed walls we could detect the scarred places where other and higher bridges of the same sort had existed. Closer inspection revealed countless largest windows, some of which were closed with shutters of petrified material, originally wood, though most gaped open, in a sinister and menacing fashion. Many of the ruins, of course, were roofless and with uneven, though wind-rounded upper edges, whilst others, of a more sharply conical or pyramidal model, or else protected by higher surrounding structures, preserved intact outlines despite the omnipresent crumbling and pitting. With the field glass, we could barely make out what seemed to be sculptural decorations in horizontal bands. Decorations including those curious groups of dots whose presence in the ancient soapstones now assumed a vastly larger significance. In many places the buildings were totally ruined and the ice sheet deeply riven from various geologic causes. In other places the stonework was worn down to the very level of the glaciation. One broad swath, extending from the plateau's interior to a cleft in the foothills about a mile to the left of the path we had traversed, was wholly free from buildings. It probably represented, we concluded, the course of some great river which in tertiary times, millions of years ago, had poured through the city and into some prodigious subterranean abyss of the Great Barrier Range. Certainly this was above all a region of caves, gulfs, and underground secrets beyond human penetration. Can I make a Lovecraft joke? Forget it, it's an old one. Huh? Wait, what? Old ancient ones in. Oh my god. Oh. 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 Nice name though. I got dumped because I shat myself. Nice. Got him. Oh, what the hell, man? Oh, we might as well wait for the ads. So ads will be happening in around a minute. We might as well just chill until after. Continue the brood until after. I'll be honking Mimi soon. I'm gonna listen to you while Mimi, since it's very chill. Okay, have good sleep. Have good Mimi. Have fun. Thanks for popping by, even when you thought it was your first time coming in. First love crush story, I was freaked out. Oh. Oh. Nighty night, just like the autumn leaves descend from the trees, I fall for you every season. What? Oh. That's so smooth, honestly. That's smooth. I'm just taking a screenshot of that. I get it. And I'm taking a screenshot of that. Yeah, I know, I get it, I get it. I'm taking a screenshot of that. Have a good rest. Have a good night. Have a better one. Got a bit sussy. Go ahead. Oh, I sent it to someone, and I sent it to a server with all the other VTuber siblings, and one person said stealing that. Your voice does to me what autumn does to trees when you say hello, my clothes fall naturally. That's funny. That's funny. So smooth, honestly. So smooth. Like butter. Is butter smooth? Yeah. Wait, did I have something on today? No, I don't. Chamber full of poems. I wouldn't call that poem. I'll call that a pickup line, right? Do you come in her Discord again if you're in live? Yeah, when you type in Discord, my bot just spits it out. The Discord channel itself is quite quiet. It's relatively quiet compared to so many others. That's a pickup line. I wouldn't call them poems. I have so many things where you just type one thing and the bot would just spit out a message nearly immediately after. Ads are over, let's go back. Looking back to our sensations and recalling our dazedness at viewing this monstrous survivor from aeons we had thought pre-human, I can only wonder that we preserved the semblance of equilibrium which we did. Of course we knew that something chronology, scientific theory, or our own subconsciousness was woefully awry, yet we kept enough poise to guide the plane, observe many things quite minutely, and take a careful series of photographs which may yet serve both us and the world in good stead. In my case, ingrained scientific habit may have helped, for above all my bewilderment and sense of menace, there burned a dominant curiosity to fathom more of this age-old secret, to know what sort of beings had built and lived in this incalculable gigantic place, and what relation to the general world of its time or of other times so unique a concentration of life could have had. What considers a poem? I thought it needs rhymes and metaphor. I don't know, maybe it's both. Maybe it's both. Well, this place could be no ordinary city. It must have formed the primary nucleus and center of some archaic and unbelievable chapter of Earth's history, whose outward ramifications, recalled only dimly in the most obscure and distorted myths, had vanished utterly amidst a chaos of terrene convulsions long before any human race had shambled out of apedom. Here sprawled a Pelagian megalopolis compared with which the fabled Atlantis and Lemuria, Comorium, and Uzaldarum, and Orlathok in the land of pre-human blasphemies, as Valusia, Riley, in the land of Manar, and a nameless city of Arabia Deserta. As we flew above the tangle of stark Titan towers, my imagination sometimes escapes all bounds and roves aimlessly in realms of fantastic associations, even weaving links betwixt this lost world and some of my own wildest dreams concerning the mad horror at the camp. The only pickup line I know is, "Are you a fart?" because she blew me away. Those phrases never really worked. I always thought they were jokes. I think what you considered a poem in the previous two, the first two, were would be considered pickup lines, wouldn't it? You saw it work? Huh. That was a struggle to read, okay. Wow. I mostly do romantic poems, so I don't really mean it romantically, more mutually. I still probably laugh at it. I still probably laugh at it. Do sad poems? No. Sad? No sad. Why sad? No, sad. I'm so dramatic. No. Welcome to the club, but also dramatic here. The plane's fuel tank, in the interest of greater lightness, had only been partly filled. Hence, we now had to exert caution in our explorations. Even so, however, we covered an enormous extent of ground, or rather air. After swooping down to a level where the wind became virtually negligible, there seemed to be no limit to the mountain range or to the length of the frightful stone city which bordered its inner foothills. 50 miles of flight in each direction showed no major change in the labyrinth of rock and masonry that clawed up corpse-like through the eternal ice. There were, though, some highly absorbing diversifications, such as the carvings of the canyon where that broad river had once pierced the foothills and approached its sinking place in the Great Range. The headlands at the stream's entrance had been boldly carved into cyclopean pylons, and something about the ridgy barrel-shaped design stirred up oddly vague, hateful, confusing semi-remembrances in both Danforth and me. Snowy, hello. Long time no see. We also came upon several star-shaped open spaces, evidently public squares. We also came upon several star-shaped open spaces, evidently public squares, and noticed various undulations in the terrain. Where a sharp hill rose, it was generally hollowed out into some sort of rambling stone edifice. There were at least two exceptions. Of these latter, one was too badly weathered to disclose what had been on the jutting eminence, while the other still bore a fantastic, conical monument carved out of solid rock and roughly resembling such things as the well-known snake tomb in the ancient valley of Petra. Flying inland from the mountains, we discovered that the city was not of infinite width, even though its length along the foothills seemed endless. After about 30 miles, the grotesque stone buildings began to thin out, and in 10 more miles we came to an unbroken waste, virtually without signs of sentient artifice. The course of the river beyond the city seemed marked by a broad, depressed line, where the land assumed a somewhat greater ruggedness, seeming to slope slightly upward as it receded in the mist-hazed west. Hello, Snowy. So far we had made no landing yet to leave the plateau without an attempt at entering some of the monstrous structures would have been inconceivable. Accordingly, we decided to find a smooth place in the foothills near our navigable pass, there grounding the plane and preparing to do some exploration on foot. Though these gradual slopes were partly covered with a scattering of ruins. Low flying soon disclosed an ampler number of possible landing places, selecting the nearest to the pass. Since our flight will be across the Great Range and back to camp, we succeeded about 12:30 p.m. in effecting a landing on a smooth, hard snowfield, wholly devoid of obstacles and well adapted to a swift and favorable takeoff later on. It did not seem necessary to protect the plane with the snow banking for so brief a time and in so comfortable an absence of high winds at this level. Hence, we merely saw that the landing skis were safely lodged and the vital parts of the mechanism were guarded against the cold. For our foot journey, we discarded the heaviest of our flying furs and took with us a small outfit consisting of pocket compass, hand camera, light provisions, voluminous notebooks and paper, geologist's hammer and chisel, specimen bags, coil of climbing rope, and powerful electric torches with extra batteries. This equipment having been carried in the plane of the chance that we might be able to effect a landing, take ground pictures, make drawings and topographical sketches, and obtain rock specimens from some bare slope, outcropping or mountain cave. Fortunately, we had a supply of extra paper to tear up, place in a spare specimen bag, and use on the ancient principle of hare and hounds for marking our courses in any interior mazes we might be able to penetrate. This had been brought in case we found some cave system with air quiet enough to allow such rapid and easy method in place of the usual rock chipping method of blazing. Okay. Walking cautiously downhill over the crust of snow towards a stupendous snow labyrinth that loomed against the opalescent west, we felt almost as keen a sense of imminent marvels as we had felt on approaching the unfathomed mountain past 4 hours previously. True, we had become visually familiar with the incredible secret concealed by the barrier peaks, yet the prospect of actually entering primordial wars reared by conscious beings perhaps millions of years ago, before any known race of men could have existed, was nonetheless awesome, potentially terrible in its implications of cosmic abnormality. Though the thinness of the air at this prodigious altitude makes excursions somewhat more difficult than usual, both Danforth and I found ourselves bearing up very well and felt equal to almost any task which might fall to our lot. It took only a few steps to bring us to a shapeless ruin worn level with the snow, while 10 or 15 rods farther on there was a huge roofless rampart still complete in its gigantic 5-pointed outline, rising to an irregular height of 10 or 11 feet. For this latter we had headed, and when at last we were actually able to touch its weathered cyclopean blocks, we felt that we had established an unprecedented and almost blasphemous link with forgotten aeons normally close to our species. This rampart, shaped like a star and perhaps 300 feet from point to point, was built of Jurassic sandstone blocks of irregular size, averaging 6 to 8 feet in surface. There was a row of arched loopholes or windows about 4 feet wide, 5 feet high, spaced quite symmetrically along the points of a star and at its inner angles, with the bottoms about 4 feet from the glaciated surface. Looking through these, we could see that the masonry was fully 5 feet thick, that there were no partitions remaining within, and that there were traces of band carvings or bas reliefs of the interior walls. Facts we had indeed guessed before when flying low over this rampart and others like it. The lower parts must have originally existed, or traces of such things were now wholly obscured by the deep layer of ice and snow at this point. We crawled through one of the windows and vainly tried to decipher the nearly effaced mural designs, but did not attempt to disturb the glaciated floor. Our orientation flights had indicated that many buildings in the city proper were less ice-choked, that we might perhaps find wholly clear interiors leading down to the true ground level if we entered those structures roofed at the top. Before we left the rampart, we photographed it carefully and studied its mortar-less cyclopean masonry with complete bewilderment. We wish that Pabodie were present, whose engineering knowledge might have helped us guess how such titanic blocks could have been handled in that unbelievably remote age when the city and its outskirts were built up. The half-mile walk downhill to the actual city, with upper wind streaking vainly and savagely through the skyward peaks in the background, was something of which the smallest details will always remain engraved. Only in fantastic nightmares could any human beings but Danforth and me conceive such optical effects. Between us and the churning vapours of the west lay that monstrous tangle of dark stone towers, its outtray and incredible forms impressing us afresh at every new angle of vision. It was a mirage in solid stone, and were it not for the photographs, I would still doubt that such a thing could be. The general type of masonry was identical with that of the rampart we had examined, but the extravagant shapes which this masonry took in its urban manifestations were past all description. Even the pictures illustrate only one or two phases of its endless variety. Preternatural massiveness and utterly alien exotism. There were geometrical forms for which Euclid would scarcely find a name. Cones of all degrees of irregularity and truncation, terraces of every sort of provocative disproportion, shafts with odd bulbous enlargements, broken columns and curious groups, and five-pointed or five-ridged arrangements of mad grotesqueness. As we drew nearer, we could see beneath certain transparent parts of the ice sheet and detect some of the tubular stone bridges that connected the crazily sprinkled structures at various heights. Of orderly streets there seemed to be none, the only broad open swath being a mile to the left, where the ancient river had doubtless flowed through the town into the mountain. Our field glasses show the external horizontal bands of nearly FS sculptures and dot groups to be very prevalent. We could half imagine what the city must have looked like, even though most of the roofs and tower tops had necessarily perished. As a whole, it had been a complex tangle of twisted lanes and alleys, all of them deep canyons, and some little better than tunnels because of the overhanging masonry or overarching bridges. Now, outspread below us, it loomed like a dream fantasy against a westward mist through whose northern end the low, reddish, Antarctic sun of early afternoon was struggling to shine, and when for a moment that sun encountered a denser obstruction, plunged the scene into temporary shadow. The effect was subtly menacing in a way I can never hope to depict. Even the faint howling and piping of the unfelt wind in the great mountain passes behind us took on a wilder note of purposeful malignity. The last stage of our descent to the town was unusually steep and abrupt, a rock outcropping at the edge where the grey change led us to think that an artificial terrace had once existed there. Under the glaciation, we believed that there must be a flight of steps or its equivalent. When at last we plunged into the town itself, clambering over fallen masonry and shrinking from the oppressive nearness and dwarfing height of omnipresent crumbling and pitted walls, our sensations again became such that I marvelled at the amount of self-control we retained. Danforth was frankly jumpy and began making some offensively irrelevant speculations about the horror at the camp, which I resented all the more because I could not help sharing certain conclusions forced upon us by many features of this morbid survival from nightmare and antiquity. The speculations worked on his imagination too, for in one place where a debris-littered alley turned a sharp corner, he insisted that he saw faint traces of ground markings, which he did not like, whilst elsewhere he stopped to listen to a subtle imaginary sound from some undefined point. A muffled musical piping, he said, not unlike that of the wind in the mountain caves, yet somehow disturbingly different. The ceaseless five-pointedness of the surrounding architecture, and of the few distinguishable mural, arabesque, and a dimly sinister suggestiveness we could not escape, and gave us a touch of terrible subconscious certainty concerning the primal entities which had reared and dwelt in this unhallowed place. Nevertheless, our scientific and adventurous souls were not wholly dead, and we mechanically carried out our program of chipping specimens from all the different rock types represented in the masonry. We wished a rather full set in order to draw better conclusions regarding the age of the place. Nothing in the great outer walls seemed to date from later than the Jurassic and Comanchian periods, nor was any piece of stone in the entire place of a great recency than the Pliocene age. In stark certainty, we were wandering amidst a death which had reigned at least 500,000 years, and in all probability even longer. As we proceeded through this maze of stone-shadowed twilight, we stopped at all available apertures to study interiors and investigative entrances possibilities. Some were above our reach, whilst others led only into ice-choked ruins as unroofed and barren as a rampart on the hill. One, though spacious and inviting, opened on a seemingly bottomless abyss without visible means of descent. Now and then we had a chance to study the petrified wood of a surviving shutter, and were impressed by the fabulous antiquity implied in the still discernible grain. These things had come from Mesozoic gymnosperms and conifers, especially Cretaceous cycads, and from fan palms and early angiosperms of plainly tertiary date. Nothing definitely later than the Pliocene could be discovered. In the placing of these shutters, whose edges showed the former presence of queer and long vanished hinges, usage seemed to be varied, some being on the outer, some on the inner side of the deep embrasures. They seemed to have become wedged in place, thus surviving the rusting of their former and probably metallic fixtures and fastenings. After a time we came across a row of windows, and the bulges of a colossal five-edged cone of undamaged apex, which led into a vast, well-preserved room with stone flooring, but these were too high in the room to permit descent without a rope. We had a rope with us, but did not wish to bother with this 20-foot drop unless obliged to, especially in this thin plateau air where great demands were made upon the heart action. This enormous room was probably a hall or concourse of some sort, and our electric torches showed bold, distinct, and potentially startling sculptures arranged around the walls in broad horizontal bands separated by equally broad strips of conventional arabesques. We took careful note of this spot, planning to enter here unless a more easily gained interior were encountered. Finally, though, we did encounter exactly the opening we wished, an archway about 6 feet wide, 10 feet high, marking the former end of an aerial bridge which had spanned an alley about 5 feet above the present level of glaciation. These archways, of course, were flush with upper story floors. In this case, one of the floors still existed. The building thus accessible was a series of rectangular terraces on a left facing westward. That across our alley, where the other archway yawned, was a decrepit cylinder with no windows and with a curious bulge about 10 feet above the aperture. It was totally dark inside, and the archway seemed to open on a well of illimitable emptiness. I'll let you away. Heaped debris made the entrance to the vast left-hand building doubly easy, yet for a moment we hesitated before taking advantage of the long-wished chance. Although we had penetrated into this tangible, archaic mystery, it required fresh resolution to carry us actually inside a complete and surviving building of a fabulous older world, whose nature was becoming more and more hideously plain to us. In the end, however, we made the plunge and scrambled up over the rubble into the gaping embrasure. The floor beyond was of great slate slabs and seemed to form the outlet of a long, high corridor with. Observing the many inner archways which led off from it, and realizing the probable complexity of the nest of apartments within, we decided that we must begin our system of hare and hound trail blazing. Hitherto, our compasses, together with frequent glimpses of the vast mountain range between the towers in our rear, had been enough to prevent our losing our way. But from now on, the artificial substitute would be necessary. Accordingly, we reduced our extra paper to shreds of suitable size, placed these in a bag to be carried by Danforth, and prepared to use them as economically as safety would allow. This method would probably gain us immunity from straying, since there did not appear to be any strong air currents inside the primordial masonry. If such should develop, or if our paper supply should give out, we could of course fall back on the more secure, though more tedious and retarding method of rock chipping. Just how extensive a territory we had opened up it was impossible to guess without a trail. The close and frequent connection of the different buildings made it likely that we might cross from one to another on bridges underneath the ice, except were impeded by local collapses and geologic rifts, for very little glaciation seemed to have entered the massive constructions. Almost all the areas of transparent ice had revealed the submerged windows as tightly shuttered, as if the town had been left in that uniform state until the glacial sheet came to crystallize the lower part for all succeeding time. Indeed, one gained a curious impression that this place had been deliberately closed and deserted in some dim, bygone aeon, rather than overwhelmed by any sudden calamity or even gradual decay. Had the coming of the ice been foreseen, and had a nameless population left en masse to seek a less doomed abode? The precise physiographic conditions attending the formation of the ice sheet at this point would have to wait for later solution. It had not, very plainly, been a grinding drive. Perhaps the pressure of accumulative snows had been responsible, and perhaps some flood from the river or from the bursting of some ancient glacial dam in the Great Range, and helped to create a special state now observable. Imagination could conceive almost anything in connection with this place. And that was chapter 5. Ooh, they went in, they explored more. They explored more. That was interesting. Bad idea. They did explore more, I think. I am curious to see what they will find. I am curious to see what will make this a Lovecraft story. Definitely, I'm curious to see what will make this a Lovecraft story. Oh, we haven't rated Shiri in a while. They're doing art right now. I'm just wondering, yeah. Shiri. Let's rate into Shiri. She's doing art. Enjoying so far despite the age of the writing. Yeah, I am enjoying it so far despite my struggle to... Oh, sorry, I've just brought my mic so far away. I am struggling to read it a little bit, but I am enjoying it. Yeah. Let's raid into Shiri. It's been a while. Thank you for joining me again. My voice is starting to go. I've never lost my voice before, so this will be interesting. Yes, have a good night. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good sleep. I know most of you guys will be sleeping. Thanks for following Histricine. ya. Bye, YouTube. Bye.